Hi, I'm John Haynes. I'm here at MixStar Studios where I mix Atmos and stereo music. I've been in this room for 20 some years now. And I'm going to show you what Meld can do, why I needed it developed, and explain how it works a bit. I'm here with Rick Carson, and we're going to show some of how I like to set up my sessions for Atmos and work with mixing in Atmos and how Meld helps me do that.
Thanks so much for having us. So what are we working on today, John?
Today, this is a song by Helene. It's called Already Dead. The original mix was done by Rory Miller. He sent stems, and I have the Chris Geringer master for the stereo mix. And so my first goal is to get all the stems into the session, get the master into the session, and start to line up the session or the song with the stems, and then work on the dynamics to recapture the effects of stereo bus, but also of the mastering on the stems so that we can get the dynamics of the song equal to what was done with the stereo mix, because most artists want the song to sound like the stereo mix. They spent so much time getting that stereo mix, tweaking it. We want to start the same dynamics and same range as that.
Awesome.
So what I've done first, I've imported it. These are my stems, my stereo master. I like to line them up as sample accurate as possible because, number one, when we flip back and forth, we're hearing the same sections of the song. The metering will also be showing the same sections of the song. And when I do go to bounce to record into the renderer, I just set my top marker, my end marker on the stereo master, and then we're synced up. The time is the same, the length is the same, all that works. So the first step I've done is lined it up as sample accurate as possible. And if we just look at these little peaks, we can see we're very, very close to a sample accurate. The way I set up my session for Atmos mix is, you can see I've got my time code up here. I like to keep my binaural renderer up there as well. Here's my time code. I've got the stereo mix going out and coming back into this channel with a Waves WLM on it. And I turn it down about 10 dB because that gets us into that -18 range of where Atmos wants to be, right? Maximum of -18 LUFS. I generally start with that turned down about 10 dB, and I generally drop my stems about 10 dB as well, just to get in the right range. I also have a WLM for my re-render. So the way that Dolby Atmos measures the volumes is from the 5.1 re-render of the Dolby renderer. So that I have that re-render coming back in from the renderer, which I use an external renderer. That live 5.1 re-render comes back into Pro Tools and appears on this meter. So I can see in different sections of the song that I'm close to the same volumes.
You've got the stems coming in and you're trying to match the dynamic range between the unprocessed stems and the actual master that happened up at Sterling Sound.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
So there's a little bit of a difference there, which, you know, we were looking at a meter earlier and it was roughly 2.5 dB or so.
Yeah. This song has a lot of dynamics. So there's the softer parts of the song are about 2.5 dB lower than the loud parts. And of course, as songs usually do, they get louder even at the end. Our maximum ceiling is -18. So the loudest part of the song, we need to be at -18.
Yep.
Right, on the re-render. But then often the quieter parts of the song are too soft because mastering has done some work to level those up. So that's what I'm using Meld for, is to compress, limit, and louden to bring those levels, those sections of the songs back together.
Awesome.
Glue them back together. So here's the beginning of the song. And once again, I'm listening through the Dolby Renderer, right? And right now I'm mainly just in stereo. I haven't started breaking the song out into Atmos. But we're listening through the renderer, and you can see our short-term LUFS. Oh, pretty close. There's a slight delay on the re-render processing delay. So, and then on the loud sections, again, we're getting up to -17. We're at -17 here as well. And you can see they do track fairly well together. And the loudest section, we're -16, -16. I want those levels through the song to match each part of the song. So what I've done, you can see I've got Meld, and I've got it on each of my 712 master, as well as each object send. The way I set up Pro Tools is I have an object master for each object. So I don't send directly from an audio file to an object. I like to go through one of these masters. That way I can find them all at the bottom of the screen. I kind of know what's going where, and I can send multiple things to one object. So I'm not tying up an object just to have one hit in the song. So I've got Meld on each of my objects here. And I also have set up an object bed, the 714 object bed, and it's on there as well. So this song may not need that, but it's there in my template as I need it. So when I want to send something to an object, I just take an audio track and I'll send it to my stereo object master for whichever one I want. It appears on that bed, which goes to the object, and I can do my automation here for panning on the object after processing, as opposed to on the channel. What am I doing with Meld here? You can see if I bypass it, the quiet sections of the song are still about right. But when I get to the loud sections, I'm overshooting, by 3-4 dB sometimes. And also my true peak output is getting pretty hot. So that's what I need Meld for, is to bring the levels of the mix back down so we're even. We're not playing it, and sometimes Atmos mixes get weird because they get too loud. Some instruments are too loud. They just don't sound like the stereo mix, and that's, I think, one of the reasons why. So how did I get at those levels? So how did I arrive at these settings? I generally start first with compression. And I know it's going to need some compression, so I'll start with the soft part of the song, getting this in the right range. Okay, so here I'm pretty even. I've set my compression. I'm getting about 3 dB. Soft ratio here. And then I'm still getting pretty hot on my true peak. The stereo master is pretty set at right around -10, but I'm getting too hot. So that's where our loudness button comes in. It makes it louder, so I need to compensate here, but it really helps to control those peaks. And then I just adjust to get back into the right range. My soft part of the song. It's still pretty much there, but when I get to the loud parts, once again, I'm pretty even. I might pull that down even a little more or apply my limiter. And my true peaks aren't getting away with me. So here we are, about -16 on the loud part, and on the softer parts, again, we're even about -18, and I've managed to get the true peaks significantly down. In fact, that's better than the setting I had when I started. So now, since Meld is on every object master and on the 712 bus, when I send something out to an object, for example, let's do this claps. So I might send those to my object 11 and 12. And one thing I do is I like to know which tracks I'm doing, so I drop them into volume trim mode so I can see. And I'll label it here, claps, and then I can do my panning here. So now I'm panning those claps back into the room a bit. We can do that same, we could do the same with the drum loop. We could send it to the same place. And something you need to know when you're mixing in Atmos is when you pan things back, you need to do some volume compensation. It's not really scientific, but I just kind of have learned which parts of the room. It's like 2 dB, 4 dB, 6 dB, 8 dB down, turning it down when you're panning that far back. And then as you go up also, the more speakers you're getting into, the more you need to compensate panning. So I've moved those back a little bit. I'm just going to drop them a couple dB. And that's why I like my volume trim window, because I can see instantly which tracks I'm manipulating in Atmos, where I'm sending them, and that I've compensated volume. So now as we start to listen, we've got our drums a little bit back into the room. We can send this guitar. And so you'll notice that the sound doesn't change when I'm throwing things into objects, because they're all going through that same processing still. They've got the same volume compensation. They've got, if you have EQ, the same EQ. It doesn't change the sound from my 712 to my object, except as in the panning. So this one is, let's get rid of that. This is guitar. There's our claps, and we've got this panned back into the room a bit. And then if I want to do binaural, I can go up here and I can set my binaural for that. Now we can hear in the room, we've got our drums positioned halfway and our guitars are positioned in the room as well. One of the things I had to do on this song, which is interesting and a good technique, if you have a dry stem and a wet stem for the leads, I've phase canceled them so I can extract the effects out of the song. It hurt really. So you can hear Hope you'd call, although I doubt just the effects. Why do I always fail to read between the lines? Were you there really? So from the wet stem, really? Did you ever think about phase canceled with the dry stem, I've extracted those effects and thrown them back into the room a bit. And I just turn on my lost my place. 1, 2, and master sub. So I've got my effects extracted out of that stem. I'm just doing that with a phase canceled reverse phase and just sending them to a bus together.
I love the green channel strip.
Yes. So as I continue mixing, we're just throwing stuff into the room. So this one, let's throw that out to 1718. And where did it go? There we got synth. And I'm just going to pan that one up nice and high behind us. And then I'm just going to pull it down about 6. You can see that my volume ranges are still, as I'm panning things back, I'm still pretty locked in on my volume compensation because it's processing it in stereo the same as it's processing it when it's broken out. I don't need to constantly go through and reevaluate.
Very cool.
Why do I always feel every city I'd hunt you down, hoping that you miss me, but it never gets into my head.
I'm just going to leave those backgrounds in the bed, but I'm going to pan them back. So that's a nice moving synth. It sounds like it's moving around, so we might do something with that one. I'm just going to do some panning on it. Let's start with it up high. And I can just then copy and paste that. And we'll need to turn it down a bit as well. So it's back and it's up. So I'm going to do about 6 dB.
City I'd hunt you down, hoping that you'd miss me, but it never gets into my head that maybe what we had was already
Nice little
dead.
something moving, something panning around.
I'd tear up my own city, I'd hunt you down, me, but it never gets into my head. That may be what we.
And let's see what this is. All right, so little effects. I like to do, quickly go through. I'm going to do effects here. And let's hear what it does. Try that again. So I'll be the first pass, and I'll do a height pass. And then we got to do a little more complicated volume on that one because we're moving it around. So I like to look at my move. I'm going to start down about there. Right about there, it hits 0 because that's the front. And then tails off. And that might be a little late.
Did I ever leave an in? Did I change you? Did I ever leave an impact?
First thing that I'm taking away from all of this is your soft rule about placement versus level, I think is incredible because I've been watching you stick to it as you've been moving through different, parts of the arrangement in the song. And you're right. That is a problem that I hear in other people's Atmos works where there's these jarring things that pop out of nowhere and they feel ill-placed in the space, almost like there's such a solid front to your work that the back and the tops, they feel far away because you treat them like they are in the distance instead of everything being the same level. And it's like you have a PA from two sides of the room.
Yeah, and when it renders down in headphones without that volume compensation, it is incredibly off from the stereo mix. And so when you hear Atmos mixes in headphones that percussion is super loud or vocals just come out of nowhere, don't match, I think that's what that is that they're not doing that technique to compensate for pan law. It's a complex pan law. And I've seen other Atmos mixers have done some videos about this, and I don't remember their name right now, but they had a technique where they would phase cancel and zero out the stereo mix against the re-rendered Atmos in real time. But that does also fall apart, as they said, when they get into the heights as well. So I didn't need to develop a technique that complex. I just kind of learned where things go. And then I'll listen in headphones, I'll listen in the room, I'll flip back and forth with the stereo mix and make sure those balances are right.
No, but it's cool. You were clearly looking for a pattern and you found something that worked for you.
Yeah.
And you can hear it in the room. You can hear as soon as you throw something back there and it's up, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to bring this down a little bit. It falls right into place.
Yeah, it doesn't get too loud behind you.
Yes, that's very, very cool. So, one other thing that I'm seeing is that you tend to do 2 automation passes when you have to deal with not only space versus height.
I don't have a pan, joystick, right? So yeah, I'll just do a front back and up to down because you can just record them separately. It's pretty easy to do.
Yep. And then I saw that when you went and copied your automation, you just, wrote in a bit until you felt like it was a musical passage, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And then, just copied something that worked with the bar line. And then.
Right. Yeah, you want it to, you need to retain the musicality, and musicality is based on bars and beats, right?
Yep.
Time. You don't want things that are happening out of time necessarily. So, I mean, that was a quick demonstration. I would go in and make sure there's no jumps when I do my pasting and things like that. But yeah, generally you find a 4-bar pattern or an 8-bar pattern or whatever, and just you can paste it, because that's the music is pretty much copied and pasted also.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very, very cool to see, and quick to watch happen.
Yeah. I mean, it's sometimes people do say, how do you do those mixes so quickly? Well, a lot of experience, a lot of understanding of what I want to do, and knowing what I want to do, what I need to do it. Yes, but it's a lot of it is how you set up your session. I've set it up so I know where things are. I can quickly jump to different things. Like all my Atmos pan automation I do down here on these object masters, so I know where to find it. I know what's getting sent there. I make my notes, and I've got my color codes. So if I scroll up, I can see, okay, this is going out an object. It's it's colored, it's on trim, right? So I just know kind of visually when I'm jumping around the screen where to go.
As a stereo mixer, there's a lot of what I would consider black magic and voodoo that has gone into this side of the science of, surround and binaural audio that's happening. And it's just incredible to watch, because really, outside of meld and panning, there's not too much else going on. You did your, the trick to isolate your reverb effects for the vocal. And
I mean, that's sort of a standard mixing trick as well. That mixing in Atmos isn't... all of the mix decisions are done, all of the EQ decisions, all the reverb decisions, all of the, artist notes, turn this vocal up, down, whatever, that's all done, right? It's either baked into the stems or it's in the mix. I'm just moving audio around. So in the routing of the session, I'm just moving audio, and in the room, I'm just moving audio. Yeah. And so, yeah, I learned some rules for myself about volume and movement, but it's not the setup for it is the difficult part, but the moving of the audio, that's just the fun part. And it's just it's interesting to figure out what things work where. I like to have my ad-libs sort of up here, but if they have a big reverb effect on them, then I like them back here, right? Okay. So like whispers, if there's a whisper vocal, I like it, kind of right in your head, almost. So just little techniques like that are fun to figure out what works. So I did a little more work on this. So this song is pretty much done. I've got my Atmos work done on it. So I'm just going to turn off the objects that I'm not using, right? Because blank objects are not allowed. So we'll just make these inactive. And then in the binaural, we just remove our unassigned objects, and now we're ready to go. In the renderer, I just create a new song. And here's where lining up my mastered stereo mix works, because I just now type in the punch in, punch out time code values, and I'm ready to record. And I give it a 2-second pre-roll and 2-second post-roll, and that's just up here, so renderer has time to catch up. And now we're recording into the renderer. Perfect. I do it in real time through the renderer because I want to hear it as it goes down. I might catch things, as it's going. And so I don't use the built-in renderer in Pro Tools, and I don't do it offline. Okay.
Did it hurt really? Did you ever think about it? Hope you'd call, although I doubt it. Why do I always fail to read between the lines? Were you there really, or was your mind then always clouded? In a room that we'd call crowded, you never even try to meet my eyes. I will always hate myself for never even asking why. Why? I cross the town, I'd wander every city, I'd hunt you down, hoping that you'd miss me, but it never gets into my head that maybe what we had was already dead. I'd wreck this town, I'd tear up my own city, I'd hunt you down, hoping that you miss me, but it never gets into my head that maybe what we had was already dead.
Now, I just analyze the loudness. The renderer is the final decision maker of, how loud it's going to be. And I'll do a pass, and it'll probably be a little too loud, and then I just turn it down.
Is that something that you have to turn down and then run it again in real time? Or
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. There are tools I could use this, load it in another tool and adjust it to there. I kind of like my workflow to do it right the first time and not have to remember adjustments later. So this is minus 16.7. I need to come down 1.3 dB. So I'll just drop this down. So 1.3, so down to 10.9. And that's just so the meters match up. That doesn't affect anything else I'm doing. But here's the beauty, again, of having all of my objects with their own master. I just grab this, and I just turn them all down 1.3. And now I rebalance, and it'll be right at minus 18. So.
Did it hurt really? Did you ever think about it? Hope you'd call, although I doubt it. Why do I always fail to read between the lines? Were you there really, or was your mind then always clouded? In a room that we'd call crowded, you never even try to meet my eyes. I will always hate myself for never even asking why. Why? I cross the town, I'd wander every city, I'd hunt you down, hoping that you'd miss me, but it never gets into my